The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para-X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Supernatural, metaphysical, paranormal. You know, all those things you've been wondering about? Are you ready to go deeper into the realms of the unknown? I hope you've got your walking shoes on, because life is an adventure, and this is the journey. Come on, let's go. Hello and welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Jen Cruz, your host, and this is the Journey Radio Show. Hey, we show up as the She-Squatchers here every week, so I've got my trusty teammate, Tammy Trickle, on with me. Hey, Tammy.
Hi, everybody.
I am so glad she's here because Jenna could not join us tonight again. She's been taking a few weeks off, so I know that she reads the comments on our YouTube channel. So for all those out there listening and watching on YouTube even later, please go on there and give us a comment and say, Jenna, where are you? Where are you?
Let her know that Jenna, come back.
Give her a guilt trip. Lay it on thick. All right. We miss her dancing. She has the best dance moves of all of us, I think. Anyway, we've got an exciting show for you tonight. We've got the guys from Bigfooting Kansas on with us. We've got a couple of the team members, Jason Roberts and Leo Fernandez are joining us tonight. I'm so excited you both could come. I've met these guys personally in Kansas City at the Paracon, and it's been really fun to know you guys. And so I'm glad you could join us. Are you there?
Absolutely.
We're here. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. So I am excited to hear about your adventures down in Kansas. You've got a lot more summer than we do up here in the north in Minnesota.
Definitely a lot warmer, that's for sure. Especially the last couple of weeks, yeah. You've had it a little bit worse than we've had it.
Well, actually, it's warm now. Yesterday was 55 degrees, and I was driving in the country, and there was green growing in the fields. I was like, wow. Wow. Today it wasn't as warm. I think it was like 44, but that's still pretty good.
Yeah, it's almost 60 here.
I was gonna say, we were up on the higher end, so we're enjoying every minute of it as much as we can.
Some of the trees here have started having flower buds on them. I was like, oh, it's March.
It's getting close. Yeah. Very cool. Yep, I'm excited for the warm weather. I'm ready to get out there and start doing some hunting.
Bigfoot hunting, right?
Oh, for sure. Yep. That's the only kind.
The only kind.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about you guys and Bigfooting Kansas. How, I know that you were doing paranormal haunting work, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that and then how you floated into the Bigfooting world? Because that's how we started too.
Well, we started back in 2009 and 2010, around that time, doing paranormal work, houses, historical sites, all over the state of Kansas. And then it was in 2012. Yeah, 2012, we actually went down to Oklahoma to help out with a case. Supposedly it was demonic. So that was the whole premise of why we were going out there. And it was house out in the woods. And then it was not long after we got there that Leo was like seeing shadow figures and stuff like that, and kind of concentrating around the house. And while we were in the house investigating, it was Brendan, who is the founder of Bigfooting Kansas, who actually found prints out there in the woods. He was like off in the woods, doing his thing, and we were hooked that night. And it was like, came across the screams, the growls,
wood knocks.
Yep. You had
typical
your tent,
behavior. Yep.
Shook or pushed in or however.
Something big, black, bipedal came through the tent and started pushing all of our tents. And I'm a light sleeper as it is, especially out in nature. And I'm not a big nature person, number one. But so as soon as my tent got shook, you know, I was up just like that. I could see this thing just walking around our base camp. But the thing that Jason forgot to also add into the beginning of this was that this was based upon, we were on Indian native land. We were on the Cherokee Indian people out in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. So it kind of added to the allure, to the mystery, how the paranormal, Bigfoot, and other things kind of go hand in hand, especially with the Native American spirits. You know, at the time we weren't for sure if we were dealing with, you know, a bipedal creature or if it was a possible medicine man shapeshifter of the Cherokee people. They seem to embrace both aspects of it, the Cherokee people do. So we went there with an open mind. We didn't come in there with any kind of bias. That was the first time I ever had interacted with something of that nature as far as a possible, you know, Sasquatch sighting. But like Jason said, we saw everything, the typical behaviors, we saw the structures, the half moon structures that were intertwined out of tree branches that more than likely something with, you know, that had, you know, digits for fingers, the ones that's weaving these, because it can't be just something, you know, like a bear or something just kind of brushing up against it, scooting it in. There was multiple structures as if they were getting closer and closer to this Indian family's property. Like they were trying to like be more curious about the family itself.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty impressive and pretty intriguing.
And I was pretty sure we were being watched the entire time. And there was, at one point, we were, me and another investigator was off kind of discussing what was going on down by the creek. And I kept looking over by the tree line, and there was just like a darker patch off in the distance, like down low, like crouching. And I just kept staring at it, and I felt like I was being watched the entire time. And I turned my head and was talking because we thought we heard a voice of another investigator that was hollering out to us, but they ended up not being the ones talking. It was like some other voice that was like mimicking, which was weird and kind of goes along with the case that we were there for. And I turned back around to look at that spot, and it was gone, and it was more lighter and more trees there. And it was already dark out, and it was 21-degree weather, so it's not like somebody was just out there, you know, watching us for fun. But
yeah,
it was crazy. I was not expecting to run into Sasquatch there on this case. I was so focused on demonic haunting and all the myths of the Native Americans and everything that they were having there on that land. But
definitely.
Can I ask about the case? Like,
sure.
What were they experiencing prior to you coming there that made you believe that it might be a demonic haunting?
Well, where this stems at, like I said, it's a part of the Tahlequah, Oklahoma, where the Trail of Tears ends. So, you know, when the Native American people got pushed by the government over to this property of land, this family has owned this land for years, hundreds of years, you know, at this point. The brothers that we were interacting with were well into their 60s at this point, and it's been a part of their whole family, the plot of land itself. And what started it off was, since they're really, you know, Native American belief system, they were told to appease the land, you got to make sure you plant on every four corner of the property some kind of, you know, gift to nature, whether it be a tree, a plant, or some sort of flower. Just make amends with the land to keep the lands happy. And they did that for many years. The whole family did that. At some point, it became just too much as they got older, you know, and some things people just sometimes forget, or, you know, don't give it a full go of it. Things started changing a little bit. They noticed some things were showing up on their property that I'm not sure if somebody conjured up possibly, or if it's because of the land, maybe it was reacting as such. But as they were younger kids, they would hear like scratches on the outside of the windows, and they would look out and they would see these little, the way they describe them to us, I call them little witches or fairies, where they come up to the windows and scratch, and they would see these things kind of peer in at them, and then they would fly off. And it freaked them out. I mean, they were just terrified. And the brothers shared one bedroom. Well, they would start hearing growling sounds out of their closets too. And next thing you know, they were getting scratched out of that closet. So it's like the land was kind of speaking itself to them. They started seeing other things on the properties, lights that they could never quite explain what they were. They called them possibly UFO lights, which once again, this is all kind of adding up as we're older now. We know this is Bigfoot has a possible tie-in with, alien life or however you want to say it, and the Native American culture. But then they started seeing full body apparitions of possible ancestors and people that have passed away, their own culture. And so it became paranormal. I think the demonic angle of it was just because it was so frightening to them, what they were experiencing, that it maybe took a darker turn. But we do know, however, at some point, as they were older, one of the brothers had a roommate where the two lived in a main house, and they were, for whatever reason, they got a hold of the Book of Dead. And they were trying to translate it from, I think it's in Latin or whatever it is, to English. Because when we went down there to do an investigation, we noticed on every inside door, like on the inside of the door, on every window, every kind of access point, there was sigils everywhere in writing that was written in Theban, which kind of is an old Latin kind of writing. And we translated a little bit. It said blame, and it had a word with it, which I don't know what the word is. It could be a possible demon's name. The thing we could never figure out is, were they trying to welcome something in at the time? That's why they put these sigils in, or were they trying to keep something out? That they bargained more than they bit off more than they can chew, basically. We have documentation of all this. We got pictures. We got all kinds of things. The reason why it's such a weird mystery behind it is because actually one of the brothers lived in the house with the roommate shortly after he discovered Christianity out of the blue. Like he converted, and then shortly after he got sick with brain cancer and went into hospice. We did go down there at that same trip, and we uncovered a voodoo doll that looked just like him. The thing is, I noticed it had a pin in the head, and this brother had brain cancer all of a sudden. So I don't know if the roommate didn't like the fact that he was turning against him and saying, hey, we were in this together, and now you don't believe what we were trying to do. So he put maybe a possible spell on this Indian brother, or what? Because when we went down to talk to him, the guy who had nothing. The roommate itself, who's not a family member, didn't want to talk to us at all. He immediately left the property and disappeared and wouldn't have anything to do with us. So it was kind of very mysterious, and there was just all kinds of little trinkets and bottles of like liquid in jars that just different. I don't know if they were herbs or what they were, or if they were. I mean, like I said, we have pictures of all this documented. We have video, we have audio of everything that we've talked about on this case. And go ahead, sorry.
Can I see this stuff?
Yeah.
and did they get help? Did the people that are living there, did they get help?
Well, this is where the story takes an interesting turn.
We were there 5 times?
Yeah.
About 5 visits we went.
Mm-hmm. What's interesting is anybody who's gone down there, including ourselves as teams, have come back with some kind of weird ailment. So I think it's attaching itself to us in different ways. Like myself, for example, I developed what's called keratoconus, which now could that be natural condition that just happened where I'm going blind in my eyes, basically? Possibly. I'm older, but the fact is it didn't start until I came back after Tahlequah. Jason has some physical ailments that started afterwards.
Yeah.
You mind if I say your wife?
Yeah, go ahead.
His ex-wife caught something and she ended up passing away. And it's not just diseases, it's also some turmoil in your life where this thing is smart enough to know it can follow you back to your property or to your location and have a lasting effect on you. Because I make it a point every time we go to any location, kind of say like a little speech at the end, say, thank you for showing yourself to us tonight. Thank you for interacting with us tonight. This is where you belong. Make sure you stay here. You're not allowed to follow us home. Not allowed to, affect our families or friends or whatever. But I remember on this particular case, I made it a point to say, you're not allowed on my property. for whatever reason. That was brand new. I said, you're not allowed to come back to my house on my property. The very next day we came back, I noticed there was this big, black, massive shadow at the edge of my property, just kind of peering at me. And it startled me because my house where I was standing at, this thing was 8 to 10 feet tall. It was just a black mass, early morning, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. The sun was barely rising, and I could see this thing with my own 2 eyes. And I looked over it and made eye contact with it. It didn't have any face or features. It was just a solid mass. But then it dissipates. And after that, that's when my life kind of went up and down on the roller coaster of bad things more than good. And then I started getting that keratoconus disease and things like that. So I think anything that interacts with this property or whatever was done on the property, I think it's smart enough to know that I can control your life to a point. And it even followed our good buddy Brandon Callahan back to Kansas City, which he wrote the book about it called The Agony That Remains, that he sells out like at the KC Paracon and whatnot. And actually have a copy of it right here too. So I don't know if you can see it or not. Probably not. The camera's not picking it up.
A little bit closer.
It's not picking it up very well, so I apologize. But it tells us. No, I'm gone completely. There we go. It tells the story in full depth about all the experiences that we've done over those trips. The story is just fascinating in itself because it's something that we never thought we would experience to that capacity. Not all at once. I mean, you had, like I said, the Bigfoot, the Native American spirits, the shapeshifters, to possibly UFO sightings, and it's just every time I go down there, I left with more questions than answers, and it's still an ongoing case, unfortunately.
On the factor of them getting help, it was only one brother left that was actually still there, and he'd show us around. Mm-hmm. They ended up losing the property basically, and no one's. It's like a big battle between, I guess, a divorce.
Yeah, it's somebody who married into the family. Has seen the potential based upon the book. Some of the filming we've done down there, they've seen the money making aspect of it for the wrong reasons. Versus, this rightfully should go to the Cherokee family that owned it. I mean, it's their property over these years. It should be their property, but it's tied up in legal.
But we've lost touch with some of them, and we're not allowed to go back out there
until it's
at
resolved.
This point, so.
And the brother that was in hospice ended up passing away. I think it was a year ago. He ended up passing away finally, but his younger brother is still alive, and he has some ailments also too that I think just being so close, staying on the property has affected his livelihood also as well. But it's just a mind-blowing case. The fact that we went down there with the open minds, and that's what kind of got us into the field of Bigfooting, just because we saw so many things, structures, the footprints, to you name it, to the
weird lights in the woods. We heard everything.
The very first occasion we were there, we were just having a conversation, not paying attention to anything, and we heard a yelp out in the woods in one direction. And then we heard another one behind us. So we think there was 2 of them communicating to each other back and forth. I say they being Sasquatch. And it's all on recordings. Just having a conversation about us. Like, I think they were letting each other know that they're there. We can see you guys, because about 2 or 3 of us heard it. And we're like, what in the hell was that? And luckily our buddy Brendan was standing there, and he went to school to be a game warden. And so he studies a lot of animals and stuff like that, and he knows their calls. I was hitting him up. I was like, "Was you sure that's not an owl? That's not a wild boar?" Because there's all this stuff up there. There's bears up there. There's mountain lions up there, because it's on the edge of the Ozark Mountains. And he's like, "No." Plus, it was March. Everything was pretty much hibernating, and it was 20 degrees out there, and it got colder over the night. So there was nothing out there other than one jackrabbit that came running out after us that scared us half to death. But other than that, I mean, it's
and each visit we went to, they seemed to get closer to us each and every time. And on our last visit, it was as close as probably 20 feet.
Yeah.
Crouching and watching us.
It was keeping an eye on. We had an RV out there we were staying in, and well, not me, but anyways, there's an RV out there. We were kind of staying in there, and this thing was watching us, like he said, about 20 yards away, just kind of keeping an eye on us and seeing what we were doing. And it was just moving his hands in the grass, like kind of like in a swaying motion, just feeling the grass. And The thing was, it was misting that night, kind of rainy, and so when we heard it, we took off after it, and you could go to the location. You can see the grass had been matted down by this thing, and you could see the fingerprints and everything. Unfortunately, it was too wet to cast or anything. We just took pictures and size comparison samples and whatnot from inside the RV, outside the RV, and that's if that was a Bigfoot, I'm pretty sure I saw it with my own eyes because it was dark and just crouching down. It was probably about 6 or 7 feet.
Yeah.
And then it took off running, and you could hear it crashing through the woods, running away. But where it was running into was too dense that we couldn't even go after it. So I don't know how it made it escape that quick, but it's pretty fascinating. So
in the chat room, they're asking for some clarification on what was on the back of the door in the house.
Sure.
The name specifically.
Okay. They're called sigils, which are just symbols. Like there was a upside down pentagram. There was like a circle with a triangle in it. There was also the writing is called Theban. It's like Thebin, I think. Theban. Yeah, I might be saying it right. Yeah, and it was written out. We translated it as best as we could in the moment. I have it written down somewhere still, and it says blame, something with a Z. And I'm not sure if it's an Indian name, if it's something inside the actual Book of the Dead that they were translating. But whatever it was enough to where they felt it was important to write it on the back of the doors and, like I said, every windowsill. And it angered the younger brother so much that he tore the door down and he burnt it out in the woods somewhere. He didn't tell us where it was. He took the voodoo doll out and hid it and burned it somewhere, which I don't know if that's the proper way
we have photographs of all that too,
to dispose of it. I don't think that's the right manner, but he was just so angry that his older brother was doing this with his roommate that he's like, I want this out of here. And he painted over everything he could. And but yeah, we do have photographic evidence of all this, and I would love to share with you guys sometime. And
I would love to see that.
Yeah. So, but go ahead.
So, Tammy, if somebody was using a voodoo doll to cause harm on someone, is that how they would do it?
By putting a pin in it? Yeah, they would put it someplace near them, like either their room or where they sleep, or as close to them as they could get. Yeah.
I didn't tell you that much. It was found in the brother's closet.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So right where the guy slept, which we had a camera facing in and out of that, like on the inside of the door and on the outside of the back of the property facing that way, because one of the claims was the shadow people would come up to the windows and they would see these scratching again. Not the same little fairies or witches from earlier, but these black shadows would come up and just torment the brother in that back corner, which I don't know if it had to do with the voodoo doll or whatever. So we had a camera facing that way, a $200 camera on a tripod wired to a DVR system inside the house. About 2 a.m, we were off, doing our investigating and whatnot. We came up to the property to grab a drink. A couple of us did, and we noticed that camera was out for some weird reason. So I was inside, and my teammate goes, I'll go out there and check it out, And he comes out there, and he comes back, and he goes, you have got to see this. I go, what? He goes, I'm not going to tell you. Just get out here and come see it. Okay. I follow him out to the back of the house by the woods, and something had cut our wires to the camera, the cable itself, the feed, a clean cut.
Clean cut.
I'm looking around thinking, okay, what is this? Is this some kind of pack rat animal? Is it but it's not jagged. It's a clean slice. Once again, we have photographic evidence of all this. I went back and watched the DVR because where it got cut was about 15 to 20 yards in front of the camera footage, so we could see what was there. We also had digital recorders going out there too. The digital recorder caught nothing walking up, no sound because there's leaves and trash everywhere out there. You don't hear anything walking up except for when we come out there.
Yeah, and we walk out there, just coming out of the house and walking to it. You can hear us.
It's really pretty loud
because we were crunching on the leaves and everything. So,
and then we watched the footage, and luckily there was a weed, a dog tail, or dog ear, what they call those things, where it's like a cat tail or something. In frame, you can see the thing start shaking where it's getting cut, but nothing is on camera. No sounds, no imagery. Next thing you know, the feed is gone after it shakes it for a few minutes. I went and timestamped it with other cameras because we had, like 8 cameras running on the property. Out in the woods, we had set up glow sticks in trees to try to attract Bigfoot into this main path where we had caught footprints and whatnot out there. the camera starts shaking at that same time over there, which was probably a good 100 yards away.
I took off running to it.
We could never figure out two interactions at the same time, nothing on camera, creating this illusion of shaking the camera and or cutting the actual camera cords. But once again, there's only one way to get into the property, so nobody could come up the backside of a mountain. I mean, it's possible, physically possible. Somebody could climb a mountain and come up the backside, but we would have heard them because of all the debris and the noises, and as far as the crunching of the leaves and trash and whatnot. But nothing was ever captured sound-wise or on video that did this interaction. So we don't know if it was spiritual. We don't know if it was man that did this. The thing has always baffled me. If you're going to go through all that trouble to either get into, well, what I originally thought might have happened was the roommate came back because he lived on the property. He maybe know a back road we don't know to get in. I thought maybe he was coming in to try to find that Book of Dead, because that was one of the things the brother in hospice said, was to try to get that book and try to find it. It's in the house somewhere still. Basically, we didn't know if he was trying to come back and get it before we could, but we had cameras inside the actual house running, and nobody ever showed up at the same time inside the house ever. But the thing I was going to say is we had that $200 camera on a tripod there. If you're going through all that trouble, why not take it?
Right.
Why leave it there and just cut the cables only and walk away? It didn't add up, and we still to this day do not know what caused all this phenomenon. But the fact is, we try to get as scientific as much as we can. We're not scientists, but we document everything from video to audio to timestamps to pictures to photographs, you name it, measuring, just to keep a good, consistency of things. You guys know on the field, you guys want to be as accurate as possible, So, but it was just a mind-blowing case. And like I said, I would love to go back out there sometime if we can. I don't know if we'll be able to, since it's under legal battle. But hopefully.
If you do, I want to go.
You're more than welcome. Awesome. Definitely. We'd love to have you out there. Because you guys may pick up on stuff that we may miss. Because we've seen so much stuff out there that I never thought I would see any of this or experience it firsthand, much less.
Right.
So I would love to have you out there.
Some of our listeners may not know this, but Tammy and I, prior to doing Bigfoot research, were into paranormal and ghost things and hauntings, and we would actually go different work with people that were having issues with hauntings and things like that. And I found that it really helps when you have people from different areas of wisdom. So Tammy's a pagan, and when I had encountered a case that I was seeing visions of symbols and things like that. I was remote viewing a haunted location, and I was seeing visions of symbols and things I did not understand. Tammy knew more about that. Mm-hmm. So it really helped to discover what was going on in these locations. And so she's been quite a good resource for that. But then once I encountered Bigfoot, that took me away.
I thought it was supposed to be Calgon take you away, not Bigfoot.
Bigfoot taking me away.
That's awesome. No, I admire that about you. I don't want to call you just girls, but experts that happen to be girls doing this. I find it brave that you guys are able to go out and do this, and I love your guys' intuitive thinking about things. How, like you said, the whole visions and the geographic mapping, I think you called it before, and then trying to get a good idea of where these, I don't want to call them creatures, but these, Sasquatch possibly exist or habitat, so it's fascinating to me. I love, and we all have our own backgrounds too. I'm a criminal justice major myself, so I use the investigative side of things a lot, and plus we're both historical buffs, so we read up on things consistently, trying to get a good angle for it. And at the time, we had guys on our team. Brendan, who is founder of Bigfooting Kansas, is an ordained minister, and our team founder is a hedge witch. So, I mean, we have different aspects. We have your basic everyday common folks, and then we also have our own specialties that we try to, like you guys do, tie into the fields that we were researching. And like you guys did too, we started in paranormal, and we just keep on branching out to, cryptozoology and all the other things we can possibly get our hands on, even some alien things we're looking at doing. So, I mean, more on a one-on-one basis. So, yeah, it's fun.
Well, on that note, we're going to take our commercial break. We'll be right back, everybody, with Bigfooting Kansas. Stay tuned. All right. Good job, guys.
Thank you.
We're on break now. If you need to run and do something or whatever, you're in and out, you're cloaking.
I'm trying not to move too much, you know.
And then he talks with his hands, and that makes it.
He makes fun of me when I do my public speaking, like at our events or when I'm doing tours and stuff, that I'm always talking with my hands everywhere and stuff like that. Yeah, I was down by I was in Dallas and I was down by the book depository building. Walked from the hotel down to the book depository, and they have a new camera up there in the window from the shooter's nest, and you're able to like log in and watch. And he was able to record it, and he actually could pinpoint where I was coming up the street because he could see me talking with my hands the whole time and everything. It's like, oh, there's Jason right there. So he's always embarrassing me in public at our events. He's always like, "You're talking." It's like I'll start talking. He's like, "Hands, hands." Like, shut up. And then I lose my place, and I'm like, "You start."
That's funny.
But
Oh, he's making you golden and white again. He's changing the camera.
Ooh, now you're yellow. Start calling you Simpsons.
30 seconds, guys.
30
Thank
seconds,
you,
guys.
Sarge.
get over here, Leo.
The time?
Yeah,
Okay, I'm coming.
you got like 15 seconds probably.
I'm coming. Just this one right there. That's what it is. We get okay. Cameras.
Go.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is the Journey Radio Show, and hey, we're the She-Squatchers. Won't you check us out online at She-Squatchers.com? And hey, we're on YouTube at She-Squatchers Official. Won't you please come over and subscribe to our channel and leave a comment there and tell Jenna that we missed her and give her a big guilt trip telling her to come back. And please like us on Facebook and Instagram, where you can find us at She-Squatchers Official. That's where you're going to find all of our most up-to-date information. And on our website, we have what's really cool on our website, we have an event page, which is going to show all the events we're going to be at upcoming here. And I got to tell you, we're going to be in Nebraska next month at the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference, April 23rd and 24th. You'll have to come and see us in Hastings, Nebraska. I'm hoping these guys from Bigfooting Kansas are going to come out. We have some exciting speakers who are going to be there. We've got Dr. Igor Burtsev from Moscow, Russia, is coming over to talk about the Bigfoot over there. He's been making a new movie, actually, and I've seen some clips from some of their interactions there. It's quite intense. Also, we're going to have Ken Gerhard there, and Kenny Collins, who was on the show not that long ago here. He's going to be there too. Lots of interesting stuff, and of course, the She-Squatchers will be there, so you have to come out. So check it out at Nebraska Bigfoot Conference on Facebook. Come check it out. And let's see. We've got a bunch more events that you can find on our event page. I won't go through them all right now, but check out the one for next month, which is Nebraska Bigfoot Conference. We really want to see you. If you can make it, come out. I'm excited. I've been home too much. It's an outdoor event. It's going to be good. So, are you guys coming?
I'm hoping to.
You're hoping to. Okay.
I know. Life.
Life.
Yeah, I gotta get life in order and stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interest, and I know we all want to.
Oh yeah.
So bad.
If we can definitely make it arranged, we'll be out there.
That sounds good. Well, I hope to see you guys. That would be awesome to see people that we know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I guess I already know some of the people who are going to be there, but it would be nice to have more people there that we know.
That's right.
Yeah.
More friends and family. I agree.
Yeah. We've been Bigfooting in Nebraska before. A couple times, and it was fun, and we had an interesting time at the Indian Caves State Park.
Nice.
Yeah, that was fun. We had some good interaction there, and even a scary time with a mountain lion. But
Good times, good times.
good times. But enough about us. You're here to tell us about you. That's what we want to know about. So about this case that you were there for, and you noticed there was some Bigfoot activity, but that doesn't really explain what was knocking at the window and scratching at the window that they thought looked like little witches. Let me ask you this. Did they describe them as having these weird flying hair type? Is that why they look like little witches?
See, and that's... It depends who's telling the story of it, because they've described it as flying fairies to witches. They just said it was these little tiny creatures, winged creatures that come up and would just scratch on the windows with these like long nails. It was more or less the flight pattern that was taking place that was really, other than the actual act itself, is getting, startled by something. It's like these things would just turn and then shoot straight up in the air, like kind of in a weird mannerism, not just your typical fly-away creature. It's like how it maneuvered. But the thing that was weird about it is when we first started going down there, our buddy Brandon Callahan, who wrote the book, he says he may have captured something similar to this in a local cemetery where this thing was going to stood down in the corner, raised up, and was going to charge him, but then had the same mannerism where it flew up in the same direction up to the sky and just dissipated. But it was bigger. So it was like a shapeshifter, which is where I don't know if that's where the Indian medicine man kind of plays in effect, if that's what he encountered in the actual cemetery, and these were just some of maybe their smaller, I don't want to call them minions, but followers or something that they're doing the deeds for them basically by keeping track of people on the property. But they've never really came out and described it to a T, other than it's just a flying winged creature that they call witches.
Yeah.
So I don't know where that came from, or if that's just something if their parents had kind of said, well, we know of this folklore, we know this thing, we've seen them ourselves, this is what we're calling them, kind of a thing.
Okay. And how big were they?
I would probably imagine 3 to 4 feet, maybe, or not 3 to 4 feet, but about a couple of feet, just real tiny. Other than the one in the actual cemetery, but that one stood probably 7 to 10 feet again. Also, once it stood up and reared up. But and like I said, Callahan claims that he has it on video. I've never seen it myself. I've been trying to get him to show me all these years, but he's not quite yet to release it to the world. But I'm curious to see what he caught.
Supposedly he's working on a documentary for it. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, fairies do come in all shapes and sizes. Some of them are very big, and some of them are very tiny, and most of them are not cute little Tinkerbell pixie-looking entities. A lot of them are quite creepy looking, and some of them are not nice. So it could definitely be fairies.
The very first time we were down there, I was snapping off pictures in that actual room, facing the window, because I was trying to see if I could get anything to not conjure up, that's a bad term, to interact with me. A couple of pictures, there's something in the window. I don't know if it's just pareidolia, where you think you see something that's your mind wants it to be, or if it's something there, but you can see something kind of peering in, and I don't know what it is. I've always chalked it up to just matrixing, basically, but I still keep it in the back of my mind. I can show you those pictures too at some point, and because it's from picture to picture. It's there 1 minute, gone the next. And it's the same window that they had the interaction with the bedroom and the scratching. And that particular moment when we did the actual investigative part in that room, something ran up. The house was started to be dilapidated, where it had a fire in there. It's the roof caving in. It's not very safe to be in, number one, but we still do it because for the sport, the hunting of it. And yeah, we had to cover all bases, basically. This is where the activity started. We want to make sure we get to the source of things. We were in there, and it was pitch black in there, and you could see the very back of the corner house where a door used to be, and it was kind of off the hinges. And we were asking for things to, if you're here, give us a sign, the whole presence thing. And you could hear on at the time we didn't have the camera running in that room, but you could hear on the recording, you can hear something run up on us, like the footsteps just boom, 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 boom. And it's enough to where I don't get startled very easily, but when something's charging you at the dark, and you can see it out in the back behind the house, the shadow moving back and forth, and all of a sudden it's charging you. I did take a step back. I was like, oh my God, because you don't expect that in the moment, and it's like, okay, this is real. But it's in the same bedroom where most activity seems to stem from the two brothers that shared that bedroom. And it just, I don't know why it focused on the brothers, maybe because they were younger and like we call them blank slates. Children are, mostly blank slates. They haven't seen the world, haven't had a chance to,
to be told that things don't exist.
Exactly. So I think it happens to focus on them a little bit more. But from my knowledge, the family knew of all these claims and stuff like that, and they said, yeah, we know, we just didn't talk about it to you because we didn't want to scare you, the kids.
Did you remember when the younger brother, who's way older than us now, but the younger brother, did you remember his story of being attacked in bed?
I didn't want to get into, well, maybe we can, and that's kind of,
it always just stuck in my mind.
You can tell it, but
just how he explained how I guess coming from the closet area, because you mentioned how they were hearing sounds in there, growling.
Sure.
And, he just remembers being held down on the bed, like some force, and it just wailing on him, attacking him, scratching. He remembers like reaching and touching, and he said, I couldn't see anything, but it was like almost like a cold, rubbery feel. And that's how he felt on the skin, just like a cold rubber. And that just always stuck with me, like, what in the world?
It also, and that's when he was younger, as he got older, he started sleeping in a trailer on the property down the street a little bit, but still on the property. This thing was still following him back to that location on the property, and he was thinking it was possibly a succubus, where this thing was trying to do sexual acts to him, wanting to kill him in his sleep, or even in real life, that he was getting night tremors, he was getting the scratches on him at that trailer also too, and we feel it's the same possibly entity or a version of it that was attacking them as they were younger, also as they were older. And we think that's possibly one of them that followed Brandon Callahan back to Kansas City also too, because he was having action where he was getting pinned down basically, and things were physically altering his body that he's had since then. Speaking of the ailments, he's had a couple of hip replacement surgeries after going there too. He's like
young. I
know. Yeah, exactly. And it's just mind baffling. Anybody, all of us that were outsiders, especially, well, even those that lived on the property, would come back and then we'd have some kind of weird things that weren't your typical, expecting ailments. And it's just like, why is this happening? Are we getting too close to the source? Is it a warning to us as, outsiders? Should we not be doing this? Are we getting too close, diving too deep? But it's a fascinating case to me. I mean, obviously for the obvious reasons.
If I remember correctly, when I talked to Brandon about it, when I spoke with him at length at Kansas City Paracon, he mentioned that this place seemed to be where I think he said ley lines cross.
Correct. Yep.
And if my memory serves, I think that when we talk about ley lines crossing, that's generally a place where back in the old country they would talk about fairy activity, and that they would literally not construct something there because of that.
Exactly. Yeah, I think in terms of like today's terms, people consider them like it's like a energy information highway kind of sorts, where especially with the paranormal and stuff too, if you see a lot of crossings, you'll get your most activities. It's like a river, like a map of a river basically, where it's all this tributaries spreading out, but it's always where the places that cross. And for some, well, maybe not some coincidental reason, but you look at the map of the U.S. and all the ley lines, some of the most tragic events in history or whatever, the hot spots of activity seem to intersect at those ley lines. I mean, we're talking, maybe a natural disaster to, I'm not saying JFK assassination was one of them, but it's something like that, to where a historical significance happened at that location. Is it the land creating some of these energies? That's up for debate, but it makes you wonder if it ties in somehow. But we've noticed the most, especially with paranormal activity and stuff, and probably even Sasquatch, they seem to tend to migrate to those areas, probably because of the energy off the land itself is so intense.
Well, I'm part Native American, and so when I
Mm-hmm.
talk to the Native elders from various tribes, actually, they talk about Bigfoot being near or living by or with the little people, or
Mm-hmm.
what other people might call fairies. So, the fact that you might be encountering some of that mischievous activity from what they think might be fairies, having Bigfoot activity nearby would be very likely, that they would be there as well. What did you think or feel their connection was, if any?
I don't know.
I think they all just they all interacted with each other in order to make. I don't know if it's so much. That's a good question. I don't know if it's so much to control the land of this particular property or the brothers themselves to keep the family in check, but they all played their significant role with this family at different times for various things and continue. I mean, activity still is happening, the same type of activity. Jason had mentioned the caves down there by the water.
Yeah.
We were just kind of investigating. I had my recorder going, and I asked the question out loud, or it was me or another investigator asked, "Are you little people? Are you actually little people?" We didn't know what to call them at the time.
Right.
Are you here? And you hear, and it always reminds me of the horror movie where you have multiple layer voices talking in the same unison, but you can tell they're different voices, and it sounds like little kids, and it says, "I don't know," like real sarcastically, and it's like. And we heard it with our ears, and I'm like, "What is that?" I heard that, and I went back and listened to the recorder, and this thing is talking to us. Things are talking to us, and we're asking a specific question. It's interacting intelligently with us, and it sounds like little kids or little fairies, if you want to call them. But the thing I noticed also too is we were getting a lot of mocking voices where I would hear things imitate somebody else's voice, and I'm like, "What'd you say, Brandon or whoever?" And they're like, "I didn't say anything," and it was their voice in perfect unison, and it's like they knew who we are before we knew who they were. And
you
it just
definitely know when somebody's coming and who they are before you get there.
Because in the cemetery that we went to with the shapeshifter, sorry man,
no, go ahead.
I never been to Tahlequah into this first trip. I'm recording once again. I always have my recorder from the minute I get to a location to the minute I leave. It's going nonstop. I don't stop it because who knows what we're missing otherwise when we're not recording. I'm in this cemetery, and something goes. It either says "Hey" Hey or "Hate" Hate Leo. It knew my name in the cemetery, and I have never stepped foot into this cemetery. And this cemetery dates back to the 1800s. It's a old Cherokee Indian cemetery, and it's close to the property. It ties in, and it was just fascinating. I was mind blown when I heard the recording.
And so one of our last times there, we went to the cemetery and we were filming with Casey, the producer that we were working with at the time, and he, while filming, all around us, we were at night and we were walking through there, and you can see Leo in the footage walking, and there's these weird different colored lights that are just shooting by, but they almost have like a flight to them. Like there's, it wasn't bugs, but they were multicolored. There's red, green,
white, blue, orange, different orbs, or I don't call them orbs. They were energies, ball of energies that were giving free floating energy. You could see with your own eyes, actually giving off light.
The crazy thing is, in one footage, it almost looks like it has wings, like it flew around and
something come bouncing by, in the video. The thing is, I'm filming in full spectrum, which is obviously gives off a purple hue, and these things are showing up in the footage full color, which you think would be just black and white or kind of a purple hue also too. And you can see them the different color spectrums that they're giving off. And the funny thing is, you can hear us talking about them on camera or pointing on camera. Hey, there they are. We're pointing this way. I go. Somebody goes, "Yeah, I see it. They're over there." And we're all pointing different directions. So we're all seeing this phenomenon happen throughout the cemetery in different locations at the same time. So these things are free floating. Now, could it be the spirits of energy from the Native American people in that cemetery? Quite possibly. But it also went back to what the brothers called the UFO lights they saw on the property that would come up to the property and just come up to the window and then fly away also too. Right. So it's the case, like I said, I love this. It's one of my favorite cases. We talk about it all the time, even on our own shows, just because it's just never ending. We remember little things along the way that we forgot. I forgot about the skin touching of the leather fill until you mentioned it. That always
stuck in my mind when he told me that story. So.
Yeah. But like I said, the best part, I think, of all this, because people read the books, I've seen the reviews on Barnes & Noble to Amazon. People criticize the book because they say, I read that book. If this is a true story, this is the most wild ride ever. Why isn't it a documentary? Why isn't it on TV? Why isn't it more famous than it was? Well, a couple of things. The Cherokee people are guarded people. They don't let just anybody come in and take over and do whatever they want. We go down there, they see that we're outsiders. They look at us, they're like, why are you here? Even people that outside the family, like when we go into town for supplies or food or whatever, why are you here? And they see our shirts, like we're investigating private location down the street here, and we're honest, looking for Bigfoot, we're looking for UFOs, we're looking for Native American spirits and, paranormal, because we're invited to by the family. And then they open up, they're like, oh, you need to go check out this Pumpkins Hollow over here and this place over there and that place. It's like, whoa, I would love to, but we can't just free reign. We need to get the proper channels. We want to make sure we're respectful for your culture and your properties, and stuff like that. So we always wanted to go back and broaden our horizon more out in those areas, but we haven't got the chance just quite yet, other than the main property, because it's such a hot spot anyways. It's kind of hard to leave the area, but like I said, but it's a true story. We have everything backed up with documentation, video, audio, you name it. We have
Sherry in the chat room wants to know, what protection do you use when you go out?
I'll answer for me. This is Leo. I don't, and I don't like advertising, and I know you guys have advertised you guys, which I'm not knocking you guys from advertising. You guys have tendencies, abilities. Maybe it'd be a psychic, empathic, whatever you want to call it, medium. I have some of those tendencies also too, so I kind of know what I'm interacting with before I even get into it. Not always. Nobody's perfect, but I can fend off things myself, basically, and I know what to experience. So I'm pretty comfortable just going in blindly. So I won't carry any kind of stones on me, any kind of crystals on there, any kind of protection spells. Now, if I need it, then I would go to the next level and do so to cleanse myself. But for the most part, I'm pretty comfortable with what I'm interacting with, because I can see and hear them and interact. So, what about you, Jason?
I don't use anything. I mean, I've dabbled with, carrying stones or anything like that, but I want the experience. I want something to come near. I want, it got kind of scary for me in one location. Leo and our founder had to come over to my home and kind of help cleanse myself and all that.
Once again, I was in touch with it to where I recognized right away he might have had an attachment on him, and we didn't let it get out of hand. Yeah. We wanted to make sure we took care of it immediately, and which we did.
Yeah, but normally I just, my only way of protection is just be a faster runner than the person next to me. So.
Yeah. That's always Tammy's plan too.
That's right.
That's right. Hey, I don't have to run fast. Just gotta run faster than you.
Only one person has to live to tell the story. That's all that matters. So.
I'm the goner for sure.
Oh, no. Awesome.
So I guess Sherry's in the chat room asking if you think that the same warnings would come to Native American investigators if they went out there with you or alone.
That's a great question that I've never heard anybody pose before, I love it. I think it also depends on generations, how in depth or in tune they are with what their heritage is. Because I think a lot of the Indian people, Native American people are still fully embrace their heritage. But I worry about the younger ones maybe not being so into it. They're still kind of the millennials, the new age kids, technology kids. Maybe they don't really take it as serious as they probably could or should, and maybe they do. I don't know, but I feel like I think they would you would think they would have a better interaction with them because they're in tune with the property, the land, and the culture itself. They may have a different belief system that all of us have that they can maybe get in touch with.
Having a different background and past,
Mm-hmm.
family-wise and everything, yeah.
So I'd be curious to see how they'd interact.
That sounds interesting to me too. So I have a question, and we are running out of time. We have like 4 minutes left, but
Okay.
I have a question. Okay, so you have branched out from paranormal investigations now into Bigfoot. Was it because it was so much more exciting?
I want to find the true evidence. I always, since I was a little kid, I always said I want to be the first one to find him. I want to. I saw the Patterson film, and I'm like, I want to meet that one. And so I always, grew up saying, if I saw one, I would just run and try to hug its leg or something and hold on till it throws me away, and I just rip off hair. Anything I can do, I just want to find. But I just want to find the proof. I want to find the evidence that actually brings it to a point where people can recognize it as a live, living creature and not something for a TV show that they're out shooting.
It's not a trophy.
Yeah, not a trophy.
Yeah. No, and I like the fear of the unknown, the just always searching to uncover something we've never seen before, or just even seeing it with my own eyes. I mean, possibly just interacting with something that I shouldn't. I'm just a simple person out in the middle of nowhere. Why am I getting this opportunity? It's a lifetime, a chance of a lifetime. So that's why I continue to do it. I think they each have their own special place, and but they also cross over quite a bit, which it's fun for me.
So, Leo, does your family originate from Mexico?
I was born in the middle of Kansas, Dodge City, Kansas.
Right,
So,
but your ancestors?
My ancestors, they're part Aztec. They're part of that. I actually have some Spanish also too in me.
Okay.
So
see, now I would classify you then as indigenous. So, because the Mexican people, so to speak, were mixed with indigenous people, which we would call Indians, I suppose, and the Spanish. So I would classify you as indigenous, or now that you're in America, Native American.
Yep. Well, it's funny because even the brothers down in Tahlequah are like, "What tribe are you from?" I'm like, "I'm sure there's something somewhere in me, but I just chalk it up to Aztec and all that." So the Spanish side of me in both, but mostly Aztec, I imagine. So.
And that would be indigenous.
Yep, exactly.
So,
yep.
I would put you in that category, and you'll even look it. So, you would fit in. They would see that connection in you for sure.
Definitely.
And when I've taken people of Hispanic, Mexican descent who were born and raised in America, when I've taken them to the Indian reservations, the spirits there interact with them as much as they interact with me, and me being a tribal member. And on the land where my ancestors are. So I think that they recognize that.
I agree.
Put that out there.
I would agree with that.
So I'm going to tell you we have less than a minute left. Will you please tell people where they can find you, and please come back on the show and tell us more?
Yes, absolutely. You can go to Facebook. It's Bigfooting Kansas on Facebook. Don't have a website at the moment. That died off a while back. But yes, find us on Facebook.
Facebook, Bigfooting Kansas, everybody. Well, it's been a great night. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you right here next week. Good night, everyone.
Bye.